G'day everyone. I was supposed to be very, very fancy today and have on full makeup and a very nice hairstyle and these very, very dramatic false lashes that were sent to me in the post, and I got very excited about because they're magnetic, but actually I got no sleep last night or the night before, so what you see is what you get. Somebody sent me, actually a little while ago, a few people were wanting me to talk about tropes, and so I asked everybody on Facebook and on Instagram to name some tropes so that I could rant about them. And I think today is a good time to rant because mostly I just feel miserable and it's nice to be able to rail against the trope, so to speak. I got a lot of doubles. There were a lot of people who were asking about love triangles and enemies to lovers in particular. I guess those are your favourite ones, maybe? They're not my favourite ones, but basically I got like about 15 or 20 here. So if I end up talking for longer than 10 minutes, you blokes know I can't edit. I have no idea what I'm doing. There will be no music, there will be no special effects. There's just me talking to a camera and then stopping it at the end. So if someone comes to my house, the dogs will go off. And you will get to hear that because you are just so lucky to get that because I don't know how to edit. So I suppose since we went to love triangles and enemies to lovers, we can start on that. I've got them all on my phone here, me and Groot just here to rant about tropes for 5 or 10 minutes. Metaphorical Cello on Instagram suggested love triangles. It's something that a couple of other people did as well, but I can't find their names right now, so that'll have to do. So technically speaking, I don't like love triangles. I hate them quite a lot, mostly because I'm the kind of person who doesn't like characters being miserable, especially if I like those characters. So love triangles are a particularly sore spot with me. I have had people say that I have love triangles in my book. Technically speaking, I don't. And I say that because the idea of an actual love triangle is not just that you don't know who the protagonist is going to end up with, but that she or he does actually like both of the options. So both of the options are actually viable options, and I don't feel like in any of my books the protagonist likes the second option well enough for it to be an actual option. So I don't think of them as love triangles in that sense, because while the reader may see that person and be like, oh, I like that person, especially when it comes to Lady of Dreams, that's been called a love triangle, and I really don't think it is, because the main character, in the way that I wrote them, doesn't actually see the second option as an option, and I think that has to be present for something to actually be considered a love triangle. Like let's go with a really famous one, like the Hunger Games, Katniss and Peter and what's his face, the tall weird one who likes to shoot people, the rebel anyway, I forget his name, I never liked him. Gale, his name's Gale. I don't like Gale. His face irritates me in the movie, his character irritates me, I don't like him in general, but Katniss does. So there's sort of like an equal opportunity here for her to be with either of these male main leads, because she does in fact like both of them, but in different ways. So for that to be a love triangle, that has to happen. I did think that it was particularly well done in the Hunger Games. I'm a fan of the Hunger Games in general. I love action adventure, and reading the Hunger Games was like a blast from the past for me. It was the first time in quite a while that I wholeheartedly threw myself into a series of books. So I love that, and I actually think that love triangle was done particularly well. Whereas things like, let's go with the ubiquitous Twilight, I didn't feel were as well done, mostly perhaps because both of her options gave me real stalkery vibes. So yeah, I didn't appreciate it as well there. I'm not saying that Twilight's a bad series. I don't love it, but I did read it when I was younger, so, who am I to judge? So love triangles, don't love them. But I can understand the appeal, especially as a female reader and writer, because quite often your idea of, or a lot of the things I grew up with, and that you see in media, is that women are just there to wait for the man to make the move. So I can understand why people like to be able to see that this protagonist, this person that we're cheering for, actually has a choice between two people. She doesn't just have to wait to be picked, she has a choice. So I can understand it. I don't love it, but I do understand it, and Hunger Games, I think, yeah, they did a good job. I liked that. Enemies to lovers. Again, this is a trope that I actually don't love. I'm a person who doesn't love conflict. However, when it's done well, I do actually really love it. So it's not my general cup of tea. I wouldn't go to search it on Amazon. I wouldn't be like, I really feel like reading a good enemies to lovers story. It's just not something I would do because it's not a trope I actually love. But when it's done well, my goodness, it's fun. I suppose the first one that sprang to mind when I was thinking about this was Pride and Prejudice, but I don't feel like Pride and Prejudice is actually a proper enemies to lovers story, although I love it a lot and it's the closest to the kind of thing I enjoy when talking about enemies to lovers, because although Elizabeth definitely considers Mr. Darcy to be in an enemy type position, Mr. Darcy doesn't consider her that way, and I think that to be truly enemies to lovers, both sides have to hold some animosity toward the other for whatever reasons. So I don't think you can really claim that one is enemies to lovers, but it is the closest to what I enjoyed. There is a K-drama called Hyena. I highly recommend it. I love it a lot, mostly because the two main characters are genuinely horrible and genuinely enemies. I wouldn't say it goes right to lovers, because in the end they are not lovers, but they are working together, which to my mind is so much better. Enemies to co-workers, I don't know. It's enemies to respect in some way, which is the important thing for me when it comes to enemies to lovers, that in between that enemies and that lovers stage, they have to have a point for me to find it actually not just believable, but to find it satisfying. They both have to come to a point at which they understand the other's point of view, even if they don't agree with it, and they have to have some respect for the other. Otherwise, the love that follows thereafter doesn't actually seem to me to be love. Most of the time it's based on physical attraction and or insta-lust, and while it's great for people who enjoy sexual tension without any underpinnings, for me it's not satisfying. I want to be able to see that they've grown to respect each other and that from that respect has grown love. So for it to be a convincing and satisfying enemies to lovers for me, it has to have that mid-stage where there is some respect. Otherwise it's just sexual tension and that gets boring, I guess. But yeah, it's not my favourite trope. You should definitely check out Susana Rounchy. She's a friend of mine. She does great books. She's very fond of enemies to lovers type stuff, and it shows in her books. Her books are so much fun, and also they give you stuff to think about as well, which sometimes I don't want that. Sometimes I just want to escape, but my goodness, when I want it, Susana will deliver all the feelings, but all the thought, and yeah, all the basically enemies to lovers type of shenanigans, I guess, because that's her bag. It's not my bag. I suppose Clockwork Magician is a little bit that way, but you don't really get to see him turn to lovers as such, so that may not be the best comparison, but I think that's probably the closest I've got in enemies to lovers in terms of that particular trope. By the way, when I talk about tropes, guys, tropes are not necessarily a bad thing. I hear people quite often just saying, tropes, this was so tropey, but tropes by themselves are not a bad thing. They're a set of guidelines and instructions for how you can format a book and what ways you can tell a story and that somebody actually wants to read. Tropes are tropes for a reason. It's because people are looking for them. They like that thing, so they search out for more of that thing. So they're not necessarily a bad thing. For me, of course, I prefer to see subverted tropes. For me, it's more fun. And when I write, I tend to take those tropes, turn them upside down, and do something else with them, because I like taking the rules and regulations that I've been told I should use to appeal to the public, turning them on their head to make something completely other from them, and still being able to repackage and sell those ideas, because to me it's delightful to be able to take the rules, make something outside the rules with the rules, and still say, no, I did it according to the rules, so therefore, yeah, it's a joy of mine. So yeah, tropes, not always bad, but what you do with them definitely makes a difference, and it's one of the things I love about working with tropes. I can use them to make something that isn't a trope, and that is delightful to me. Kari Crawford on Facebook mentioned contract relationships. I love okay, this is one of the things I actually do enjoy. I've been slightly overcome by the sheer amount of them in K-dramas, because as you guys know, I'm learning Korean. I use K-dramas as a way to study my hearing and to get an idea for not even just sentence structure, but for expressions and that sort of thing. And it's also really good for testing my retention of the words I've already learned, because once you start learning a word, you tend to hear it everywhere or see it everywhere. It was already there, but because you learned it, it's more easy to spot, and so it's a really good learning device. But along with that comes a lot of repeated tropes that I absolutely abhor, as well as tropes that I did like and now really hate because they get used so much. And contract relationships should be one of those. In K-dramas, there are an appalling amount of contract relationships. In fact, a lot of them nowadays are hanging a lantern on that fact by saying something like, oh, just like in the dramas, we'll do this. And they are laughing behind their hands because they think they've been very, very clever about it, when actually I'm like, no, you're just doing another contract relationship story. It had better be good, or I'm not going to watch it. So I love contract relationships. I love the idea of going into a relationship with the safety of all these guidelines, but still being able to get something real out of it. It gives you the space in which to appreciate the other person as a person first and as a love interest second, which is delightful to me. It's also one of the reasons I love the arranged marriage trope, which is kind of a sister to the contract relationship trope. It's because it gives you that sense of, you are bonded together, you are stuck here for this predetermined amount of time, or for the rest of your lives, depending on the culture. You have to make it work, and to make it work, you can't look at the outward things like, are they hot? Are they beautiful? I think that's important in a relationship. Yes, that you should consider your partner attractive. That is without a doubt important. But this format gives you a chance to appreciate the good points of the other person without the physical stuff actually coming into it. It also gives you a safe space in which to explore the more physical intimacies if you're going to go in that direction with a book, because that person can't get rid of you, you can't get rid of that person. It makes you more inclined to be more careful, more respectful of that person as a person, which I find too many books and media don't do, because it's all about, having that great back and forth, that great rapport with your partner, which is great. It's wonderful to have that. But I think sometimes it sacrifices respect for the other person in doing so. Not always, but it does, sometimes do that. So contract relationships, love them. I love the sister to that, which is arranged marriage. Such fun. There aren't too many I don't like, but like I said, if it's not well done, if it's just your standard stock in kind contract marriage, contract relationship, then I will pass on it, because I don't feel that I want to dilute a thing I love by watching subpar or reading subpar renditions of it. So don't want to do that. There's a couple similar ones that go with oddball guy, uptight girl, or the reverse of that, plus the grumpy one and the sunshine one. Okay, I love grumpy one and sunshine one. That is one of my all-time favourite tropes, mostly because you get to see the grumpy one falling in love, which is delightful. But you get to see the different way they express that love. My favourite is when they don't change the grumpy one into being non-grumpy, because it's okay for you to have a different personality that does not engage with the world in the same way that the sunny ones does. So the sunny one is not necessarily, the correct one in the relationship. They just have different ways of expressing love and experiencing the world. And when one of these is done well, it's one of my favourite tropes, because especially when they don't try and change the two personalities to more closely align. I love the way they work off each other that way. We've also got stuff like childhood friends who meet again. Guys, I hate this trope so much these days. I used to love it. I saw it in too many K-dramas, and now I actually hate it, because I'm starting to feel like, what is so great about having had a connection in the past, and then you completely forget about the person, or they linger in the back of your mind, whatever, and then you meet them again and they're a horrible person, but you're just somehow drawn to them. It's that fated love thing. Rather than the childhood friends meeting again, it's that whole fated love element of it that I really hate, because what is so good about sticking with an abusive and disgusting person because fated love, yeah, instead of just getting a decent partner, picking somebody who is a decent person and a loving person. Okay, if you pick someone who is a horrible person, and you do it fully knowing what kind of person they are, that choice also reflects on who you are as a person. So these situations really don't ring true with me in characterization. There's a saying that the worth of a soul depends on the object of its affections, and that holds true in romance too, I believe. So it used to be a favourite trope, is not a favourite trope now, because I feel like it's a more worthwhile expression of who a person is and who they pick, to be like, I see this person is funny and cute and thoughtful and just pleasant to be around. This person has inherent worth because they are a beautiful on the inside person. I choose this person. To me, that's far more valuable than any amount of fated love they met in childhood and now reconnected, because I'm going to be honest now, a lot of the boys I met when I was younger, they would be horrible to be in a fated love kind of situation with, because, I mean, they were kind of horrible then, which isn't fair to translate to that they'll be horrible now, but we would be completely mismatching. And that is the way most people's experiences will go. Just because you match with someone when you're young doesn't mean you're going to match with them when you're older. So I find it unbelievable and mostly irritating, but I do still have a soft spot for it when it's done well, when I see the friendship turn to love. That, because I'm a very slow person when it comes to relationships anyway, the idea of being able to be friends with a person and that being able to turn to love is delightful. I don't have the energy to spare to do that because I don't have a lot of energy for new friends, but if I was ever to get into a relationship with someone again, it would be someone that I would feel like, even if we can't be something more, I would still want this person as a friend. So that would be very important to me. So I can't hate the trope too much. It's just that it's been ruined a little bit for me. So yeah, not such a great thing. Wow, I've been talking for 18 minutes already. So apparently I'm not as bad off as I thought. I've only gotten through a few of these, and I still have stuff that I really want to talk about, like the ones that Pilgrim Hill suggested about Uptight Loves Wild, which is a bit of a riff off opposites. Women in Fridges, I really want to talk about that too. Action mums or pregnant mums. There's actually a few Uptight Love Wild one here. And somebody wants me to talk about betrayal. Do you really want me to talk about betrayal? Maybe I'll do that. We'll see. But yeah, there's a lot more here and I want to talk about them. So obviously I will end up doing a part 2 for this. Let me know if there are any more you want to hear me talk about, or if you just want to tell me what you think about them. You can always put it in the comments, and I might be able to talk about it next time. You can expect that next time I will actually be rocking the giant lashes. I told you they're magnetic, right? I love the fact that beauty has evolved to the stage. I don't use beauty products in general. I'm allergic to nearly everything. I have one face cream I can use. That's it. I don't even have a cleanser I can use. But I love the fact that science is catching up with beauty in the way that there are magnetic lashes. Who thought of that? I love it so much. I was terrified about peeling lashes off. I mean, I probably wouldn't wear them anyway because I'm lazy. I have nowhere to wear these things, guys, which is why you get to see them on videos. So I guess you're just lucky. Next time I also will not have like bags down to my chin because hopefully I will have gotten a appropriate amount of sleep. So yeah, I will see you guys next time. Just comment down in the comments or on the Facebook page or wherever I am. I'll see it. I'll take a screen cap and I will probably talk about your tropes that you want me to talk about. So yeah, I'll see you next time. Somewhat more fabulous, I guess. Yeah. Have a good one, guys.